Recently, China Mobile officially released two proprietary chips manufactured exclusively in China, the CM8610 LTE-K1 chip and the CM6620 NB-IoT chip. These two chips were jointly developed by China Mobile, the Intellectual Property and Innovation Development Center of the Chinese Academy of Information and Communications Technology, the School of Integrated Circuits of Tsinghua University, and Nanjing Chuxin Villian, and are capable of meeting the operating system requirements for most of the existing smart home, smart transportation, smart industry, and smart security applications in the market. The most important aspect is the ability to mass produce these chips. According to data, the research funding for Chinese chips will reach 3 trillion yuan in 2022, and their applications are mainly in the civilian sector. So why does China spare no expense in producing domestic chips? Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. In fact, until a few years ago, there were no Chinese companies willing to develop domestic chips on their own, and in the field of domestic chips, China has been unable to generate real demand for a long time. The cheapness and abundance of United States microchips make Chinese companies unwilling to spend time and effort on something that has no market competitiveness. The lack of demand leads to the loss of funds and talents to other industries. The entire industry chain cannot be formed, which stagnates China's technological development, and the gap with foreign countries increases. In the past few decades, the main development direction of the Chinese economy has been to rely on foreign investment and export-oriented industries rather than independent innovation and technological R&D. At the same time, there are a large number of imported chips with low prices in the international market, which also reduces the demand for domestic chips in China's domestic market. Compared with other countries, China's investment in the field of chip manufacturing is relatively limited. During the period of vigorous economic development, the Chinese government tended to support labor-intensive industries rather than high-tech industries. Another undeniable factor is that China has lacked key technologies and patent support in the past. The development of chip technology requires comprehensive intellectual property protection, and China has had many problems with intellectual property protection, preventing Chinese companies from investing heavily in chip development. A certain monopoly model has been formed in the global chip industry. Some international giants have a dominant position in technology and market, creating a barrier for new companies to enter the market. In such a situation, Chinese companies have to face more competitive pressure and risks, so the development of domestic microchips in China is seriously lagging behind. This situation persisted until the United States imposed a technological blockade on the global chip supply chain. The first to suffer was Huawei, which was unable to purchase microchips and other critical components from the United States, which seriously affected its business. Many other Chinese companies in Huawei's supply chain were also affected because of Huawei's exposure. Due to their over-reliance on United States technology and components, these businesses faced a shortage of microchips after the embargo. The automotive industry was particularly affected as modern cars use a large number of microchips, and the shortage of microchips has led to reduced production and delayed car shipments, negatively impacting the automotive market. Seeing such a serious situation, China started to invest trillions of yuan in scientific research every year. In recent years, China's domestic microchips have made significant achievements in market breakthroughs, becoming a bright spot in the domestic technology industry. Various problems that once hindered the replacement of domestic microchips in China, such as technological maturity, the ecology of upstream and downstream, and market confidence, are gradually being overcome, and the era of domestic microchip placement is coming. The reason for the competitive advantage of foreign chips is not only because of the maturity of the technology itself, but also because of the stable ecology of upstream and downstream has been formed. For example, compilers, development tools, operating systems, driver customization are all technological issues in which China is gaining momentum and making significant progress. However, market development is the biggest challenge facing domestic chip makers in China. When foreign chips have brand advantages and occupy a user base, gaining customer trust and reducing decision costs becomes the most challenging task for substitutes. In the past, many customers had trust issues with domestic chip substitutes in China, especially in the case of large projects and high decision costs. They preferred to choose mature foreign products, even if they were more expensive and did not take responsibility in case of problems. In contrast, Chinese manufacturers had to go to each customer to demonstrate, test, and convince decision makers to open up the market. It was a journey full of difficulties and tears. The less trust, the less sales for the enterprise, and the lower the brand recognition. Conversely, the fewer sales and the lower the brand recognition, the harder it is to gain trust. This is true not only for microchips, but also in many other areas of high-tech manufacturing. Interestingly, the United States embargo policy has suddenly untied this knot that had been bothering many companies, and the call for domestic chip replacement in China has undergone a significant change. Whereas companies used to actively seek customers, they are now pushing for the adoption of Chinese domestic substitutes at all costs, even if it requires working overtime to address issues such as technological maturity and the integrity of domestic software, which are no longer an issue compared to the uncertainty associated with supply chain risks. With the announcement of mobile chip companies, it was announced that China is no longer in the era of material stacking. Chinese domestic chips are not only cheaper, but also have various Chinese language documentation, instructional videos, and other resources, making them easy to use and practical. The decision cost is always the highest at the initial stage, and once Chinese domestic chips are used, it is difficult to change. At the same time, the profit margin increases for chip companies, and engineers and developers join en masse. Chip companies of all sizes are starting to recruit talent, and chip engineers' salaries are approaching those of internet giants. As talent and technology accumulate and spread, the chip industry itself is constantly maturing, and the ecosystem surrounding it are gradually changing. The success of Chinese microchips has played an important role in promoting independent innovation in science and technology, transforming and upgrading the economy, enhancing industrial competitiveness, and protecting intellectual property. Although Chinese domestic chips still face some challenges and difficulties, there is reason to believe that with the efforts of all parties, they will make great achievements in the near future. Chinese companies have made significant breakthroughs in GPU chip technology. Although Huawei-owned Silicon has developed the Kirin 9000 processor, China's weaknesses lie in the area of GPU chips. In addition, processor chips are the backbone of artificial intelligence and big data analytics, which is why the Biden administration took a big step to ban companies like NVIDIA from selling high-end GPU processors to Chinese enterprises. Fortunately, after learning from Huawei's experience, more Chinese companies, including internet giants like Baidu and Alibaba, are starting to show their strengths in GPU chips. In addition, domestic GPU chip makers such as Bitmain Technology and Muxi Integrated Circuit are also continuously working on CPU processors that could match the performance of NVIDIA's A100. As Bill Gates said, the United States will never be able to stop China from having powerful chips. Decoupling will only accelerate the process of Chinese enterprises achieving chip independence. Indeed, under United States restrictions, China is overcoming one technological challenge after another. There are still many unknown factors in this highly competitive market that will determine who emerges as the winner. However, we can see that Chinese chip companies are constantly growing and developing, which is a positive trend. What do you think about it? Write your opinion in the comments.